Hi and welcome to wrist training. We will do always one exercise to train the stability of our wrists. Then I'm going to read from here something about silvopasture in practice, how it's done in practice, but all from a theoretical perspective. And participating in the exercises, etc. Let's start with the first exercise. We're having by all these exercises a stable, comfortable and calm stance. We're having the arms now next to us, and we're having the hands formed to fists, and we're bringing all these fists down and again up. And we're having 3 rules. The first rule, most important rule: if you have pain at the wrists by these exercises, then stop immediately and don't continue them. The second rule is that we're going only as far as we can go with a little bit of effort, and as soon as we've reached the point which we could reach with a little bit of effort, we're turning around and are going into the other direction. And the third rule is that we don't overdo it. We are not using the full potential, not even the full potential. We're stopping before we are doing too much or exactly the right amount. We're doing less, and that will be when we are up. So we're doing less when we can do. With a strengthening exercise, we want to improve the situation. Now to silvopasture in practice. First, what is silvopasture? Silvopasture is the name of an agricultural way of farming, by which trees are planted in a way that in between them, lawn and meadows and shrubs and other stuff is growing. From then, in turn, livestock like cows and pigs are able to eat from. Foresting with gaining tree fruits and firewood is simultaneously with livestock raising practiced, trying to let them both have a beneficial influence onto each other. So silvopasture is that there are trees planted in a way that they're in between shrubs and lawn and meadow and all that stuff for for the livestock, the animals can grow. So the idea is there's not a one big lawn where the cattle is grazing, but that there are trees, and not just 2 or 3, but many trees. So trees which are all giving apple trees, for example, or something else, so that there is use from the trees and from the lawn at the same time, and that what we animals are eating and doing has a beneficial influence onto the trees, and that the trees having a beneficial influence onto the lawn. So it's both in one, not just the fir forest just for wood production, for firewood or furniture wood, or just a lawn for corn or for grazing or something. It's both together. That is silvopasture. We're going on with the next exercise. That just was the spotlight. Now we're doing the flashlight. I just showed it shortly. So we have the fist again next to us, and now we're turning them to the inside and to the outside. And repetition is king. So rule number 1: if there's pain, we are stopping immediately. Rule number 2: we're going only as far as we can go with a little bit of effort, and then we're going into the other direction. And rule number 3 is that we don't overdoing it, we don't even using the full potential. So how about that this was already the last time of that flashlight? Doing silvopasture requires proper planning, knowledge and money. So we need planning, we need to plan it, we need knowledge, we need to know about it, and we need money. One has to know about how trees and livestock interact, how the grazing places for the animals are regularly rotated, and how the soil is kept healthy. So we have to know how a tree influences the ground, for example through the shadow, when there is cooler temperatures and more water in the ground, but also that leaves are falling onto the ground and so on. And also that the grass and the tree, who gets water and something like that. So how they influence each other. And also the animals, where the animals eat the fruit and so on. How the grazing places for the animals are regularly rotated. So we are not just in one place, but we are rotated. So one day the cattle is here, and next week we are at another place, and so on. We are led from one place to the next, but we don't graze always at the same time. And how the soil is kept healthy. There's not more, but just that the ground is kept healthy, so that there's not stuff lying around. That there are the right things planted. That if there are trees planted, these trees are protected, and so on. So how the soil is protected. We need knowledge about it, and here's not more. Last thing, and then we're going on. Young trees may have to be protected from being trampled over or eaten by pigs and cattle. So a very young tree could get just eaten by a pig, a cattle, or whatever animal, and so we have to be protected by a fence or something, so that we can have time to grow high enough that we are ourselves strong enough to not be eaten by a pig or another animal. The next exercise, it is the magician. So we're having the flat hands now next to us, and we're bringing these flat hands to the inside and to the outside. Okay, we need 3 things for Silvopasture. These things are good and the proper family planning, then a wisdom-based knowledge, and a large amount of mud. And we're having here 3 rules. Rule number 1, by pain we're stopping immediately. Rule number 2, we're going only as far as we can go with a little bit of effort. And the 3rd rule is what we are down using our full potential. So it was the magician. Let's go only a bit behind time. The pancake flipper. We're having flat hands against next to us, and we're lifting these flat hands up to the sky and again down. Up to the sky and again down. We need to protect young seedlings for the trees so that they are not eaten by one of livestock animals. So livestock are animals. And we need to know about the soil, how to keep the soil healthy, and how the trees and the grass and all the plants interact with each other, and also and how to rotate animals. But I guess we have to know whether there's just an open pasture for the animals or trees. We have to know about how to keep animals healthy and happy. If not managed properly, trees and grasses can fight for water nutrients of the soil. So if there's too much grass, too much shrubs or whatever growing, and the trees, so if we don't manage all that properly, this interaction between the grass and the trees, then there might be a fight between the water. So the trees want all the water to grow, and the trees need water, and the grass also need water. We have to manage it properly. The right trees have to be chosen to avoid too slow growth and bear with shade, or even toxic stuff which the chicken might eat. Okay, we need trees which grow fast or in the proper time. Let's go on with the next exercise. It is jumping well. Let's do the clearings in the morning. So we're having flat hands out and we're bringing them up and again down. And up and again down. Now I can't talk about what we just read because I have totally forgotten what the thing was what we just read. It was, yes, we have to be the right trees. So not a tree that needs 1,000 years to grow 1 meter, but we have to grow as we should, and we need to plant it in with knowledge and need money to plant it. And so that we're giving shade. Yes, the idea is that the trees are giving shade so that the animals can be there, the temperatures are lower, the wind is lower, and there's not so much sunlight coming and so on. So we need shade. So if you have a tree that needs 1,000 years to grow, we never get shade, and we need to get very old to get the revenues. It's intended that the eating animals are reducing the accumulating biomass and are reducing the risk of wildfires. But if wrong rotation of the animals or something happens, the biomass can even increase, making fire more severe. So the first thing was just that if you plant trees which are having fruits which are toxic to the animals, that is a problem. I think that's obvious. Next exercise, the T-Rex in the gym. If you don't have the tennis ball, do it without one. Taking the tennis ball like this and repressing onto the tennis ball. So we should have the wrong trees because we might grow too low slowly, or don't have enough crown or something, not enough shade. We're releasing again the pressure and we are pressing again. And we need to know how to rotate animals, because the idea is that the animals are reducing the biomass by eating them, and that we are not apples lying around for 10 months and that diseases spread or pests, so that they are eaten timely. I don't know what exactly. We're having changed and we're pressing again, and we're releasing and we're pressing again. But if we don't know how to manage that rotating and don't do it as we know how it is properly, then there can biomass even more accumulate, and if there's a lot of biomass lying around, so a lot of old branches, a lot of leaves, a lot of old things from the years in the past, then if a wildfire comes, it burns all down. So we don't want to have a lot of biomass lying around, which is not right. Some is right for the trees to grow, but not too much and just something lying around. Whereas the idea of helping farmers starting silvopasture to get the upsides of silvopasture instead of the possible downsides by offering the presenting of demonstration farms, knowledge sharing networks with well-structured education and training options to close the gap of in-knowledge and the overcoming difficulties to make sure that starting farmers can confidently do silvopasture to maximize productivity while avoiding the problems. We're going directly on with the next exercise. It's the frog testing the water temperature. So we're going down with the fingers and we're flaring and we're spreading the fingers. We're going up again, the water seems to be cold, and we're making a strong fist, so press the fist a bit together. And we're testing again the water temperature with flaring fingers. But now we're going up and making again strong fists. And the last time down and again up. Onto the cautious big bang, the fingertips of one hand on top of the fingernails of the other hand, and we're opening against it. So that hand presses the whole time. We're opening and closing. So some people seem to have the idea that people who want to do silvopasture should have the option of switching the position, should have the option of getting somewhere to see in demonstration farms how silvopasture works, and that we can have a possibility to learn somewhere about it, and that we could prepare before we're doing it. That is an idea which some people seem to have. That is what was written in that bullet point there. We're going on with more. Planting the trees and the fences requires upfront investment. Typically, it does take 3 to 6 years to make money. That could include a cast like that. We don't have so much time left. We bring the fists to the inside. So there was just said that it takes typically 3 to 6 years. And we need upfront investment. That means money. And we need fences. We don't have one big open pasture or just a tree, but we need fences that might be for the animals. I've completely forgotten what direction we're going here. So we need fences, and that needs upfront investment. That means we're having to have the money years in advance, which is not an advantage. 3 to 6 years before we're getting revenues. Silvopastures are created by either felling trees to create more pasture or through planting of trees into own pasture. Until planted trees are financially profitable, years pass and the trees can restrict future land use. Next exercise, it is the crab anxious to have fever. We're having enough time, we're rushing sufficiently. The arm will be outside, hand thumb to a fist, and we're bringing this fist down and we're pressing a little bit against the fist. And here we are really careful by this exercise. And we're putting it a bit on the outside. So it's either done by having a forest with a lot of dense trees, and we're felling some of them, we're cutting some of these trees and not for water. And now we're going to do the same on the other side, again the hand down, or by having an open pasture, so just a big field with just grass and lawn or something, and we're planting here trees. But if we plant trees, it's going to cost some years until these trees have grown. And even if we haven't used one which needs 1,000 years to grow, we're still going to still have to make use of 3 to 6 years. It's written at another place. We're done with all the exercises, just a little stretching. We're going, here's the brachioradialis, we're sitting on here with his fingers, and we're going down with moderate pressure over the middle part of the lower arm, on the other side, and that is the place where the extensor digitorum muscles is situated, because we have used that muscle quite a times to extend the digits. It is that one here. Okay, we're done with all the exercises. 1 minute, 30 seconds left. And just 2 things left. Thinning the tree stock can make use of heavy machinery necessary if trees assist failed new seedlings might spring a mount of. So if we're having their big forest with thousands of trees and they are 50 meters high, we just can come and cut them down with a little axe and take them over the shoulder and bring them home. We need maybe big machineries, and they cost money, they have to be planned, they might have problems to be transported, their streets are not everywhere, and so on. So we need maybe heavy machinery to fell the trees. And if a tree is felled, then there are a lot of seedlings can spring up, because the tree is not longer taking the shade away, and there's no big space, and hundreds of trees, little trees, can start growing if a big tree is gone. Light is coming to the ground, and there's a lot of space and room, and hundreds of seedlings are suddenly have
there are always hundreds of seedlings, but they can come all up. Sometimes if a tree falls down, all these seeds are spreaded without also
Silvopasture requires long-term management. Oftentimes the ownership of land is not completely clear, that is also making it not easy.
So not all countries and in all regions it is clear who has the land. It can be different persons, maybe even firms, companies, maybe the government. So who can decide who does what, and it takes years to plan silvopasture, so it cannot change every week.
Who has authority to decide things. And some land is by law classified as agricultural land or as forestry, respectively, being a first
Step obstacle. So some people say that is a forest or that is open pasture. I thank you very much. Until the next time.